I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to my sponsor, P2 Collectibles, located at 204 East McGalley Road in Muncie and on eBay as well. So next time you're here in Muncie, let us know. Come give us a visit.
Hey, what is up, y'all? This is Alex from Plus3 TCG, and I'm coming at y'all with a discussion today. We're going to be discussing what Altergeists do post Flames of Destruction, because right now, the deck doesn't see a lot of play. I know there was that YCS Atlanta feature match between the homie Dominic and Mega Capital G. But other than that, Altergeists aren't doing a whole lot because they can't use one of their best cards effectively, and that is Silquidus. Silquidus is usable, but you have to usually normal summon it or summon it with like Prim Banshee late game, and by then your advantage just isn't the same. So post Flames of Destruction, we will be able to use Silquidus in quite the cool fashion. But if you don't know what Altergeists do, then none of this really makes sense. So I'm just going to go through some of the cards and what they do. First is Altergeist Marionetter. When this card is normal summoned, you can set one Altergeist trap directly from your deck to your spell or trap zone. You can target one Altergeist card you control and one Altergeist monster in your graveyard. Send that card in the field to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon that other monster from your graveyard. You can only use this effect of Altergeist Marionetter once per turn. This card is a great starter card that gets you into your traps that you need. You're usually trying to set protocol so you can negate stuff right off the bat. But if you already have that, then you can set something like Materialization or Camouflage. As of now, we're using Camouflage. Later on, probably not so much post Flames of Destruction. Then we have Altergeist Meluseek. This card can attack directly, and when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one card your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand, except Altergeist Meluseek, and you can use this effect of Altergeist Meluseek once per turn. This card is great, an amazing extender, as well as a great aggressive card. I know it's a small attack, but it does allow you to pick at your opponent's life points while being able to also pick apart their board, because it can attack directly and gets around a lot of cool stuff. Then we have Altergeist Silquidus, the card that I was talking about. That's going to be great post Flames of Destruction. Its effect reads, it's a quick effect. You can return one other Altergeist card you control to the hand, then target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So it's a searchable Kieran for the deck. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one Altergeist trap in your graveyard, add that card to your hand, and you can only use each effect of Altergeist Silquidus once per turn, which would be nuts if you could use multiple Silquidus in a turn. This card isn't as utilizable as it will be post Flames of Destruction with Multi-Faker, but until then, we're just working with what we have. And the last card is Altergeist Konkiri, the one that we have now, which doesn't see a whole lot of play. It's a neat battle hand trap. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, if you control an Altergeist card, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate that attack. If this card is special summoned, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and negate the effect of that card while it and this monster are face-up on the field. Now, the problem with this card is that you have to control an Altergeist card, and if they, before battle phase, get rid of all your Altergeist cards, then this card is dead. So, now it's not worth playing, and I really don't think post Flames of Destruction this card is worth playing. But if you find luck with it, I guess you can play it. Just in testing, this card doesn't really come up a lot because you're really counting on keeping your Altergeist cards on the field, and if you can't, then this card isn't as good. But the likelihood of your opponent getting rid of all your Altergeist cards if you set up a decent board is pretty low. So this is I guess semi-relevant, because with personal spoofing, you can just search it, and then like post Flames of Destruction, if you have Multi-Faker, you can do some cool stuff with it. But for the most part, I don't know if it is really worth playing. Now, the traps that you can set with Marionetter are pretty nuts. We'll read the bad one first, though. The one that you can play now, but post Flames of Destruction, probably not worth it. There's Altergeist Camouflage. You can target one Altergeist monster you control, equip this card to it. Your opponent cannot target it for attacks, but it does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. So the equipped monster is safe from attacks, but it allows them to attack directly. Negate an opponent's monster effect that activates by targeting the equipped monster. That's the effect that I really like, but it really relies on your opponent to not read cards. If they just read the card, they can play around it. And if an Altergeist card you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So it's got a triple effect, which all three are semi-relevant, but it's just not the best of the traps. We have Manifestation up next. You can target one Altergeist monster in your graveyard, special summon in attack position, and equip it with this card. It's like Call of the Haunted, but searchable. Especially when this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. They're very similar in that. But you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Altergeist trap in your grave, add it to your hand. You can only use this effective Altergeist Manifestation once per turn. So it has the ability to recycle some of your traps. As of now, I think it's a 2 of, potentially a 3 of, I guess. If you're like banish one with desires, then having the third, I guess, would be beneficial. But I think 2 is good. 2 is the correct number. But with Altergeist Protocol, this is a 3 of for sure, because this is your monster negator. The activation and effects of Altergeist cards activated on your field cannot be negated. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can send one other face-up Altergeist card you control to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. You can only use this effective Altergeist Protocol once per turn. Imagine if this was multiple times a turn. Goodness. I guess you could say that about a lot of decks, but a lot of these once per turn effects are definitely necessary for Altergeists. This card is great. It really allows you to extend your boards, especially after Flames of Destruction, because upon activation, Multi-Faker gets to do its thing. So this card is most definitely a 3 of, as well as personal spoofing. Right now it's not, but post Flames of Destruction most definitely, because you'll have more monsters that you can search. Once per turn, you can shuffle one other Altergeist card from your hand or face-up from your field into the main deck as cost, and then add one Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand. So upon resolution, if you add Multi-Faker, Multi-Faker will be able to trigger and do its thing, which makes personal spoofing a most definite 3 of. Moving on to the Link monsters, the one that we had for a while, which was pretty bad, is Altergeist Prim Banshee. It's got its effects that are decent right now, I guess, because at some point you can special summon Silkwoodisp, but after Flames of Destruction, this card just isn't as good. It's bigger, I guess, and its zones are pretty neat. Its link markers, I mean, but other than that, it's not the greatest extender. You might as well just summon HEXSTIA, which is the card that we'll be talking about after this. So Prim Banshee's effect is during the main phase. Quick effect, you contribute one other Altergeist monster, special summon one Altergeist monster from your deck to your zone this card points to. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one Altergeist card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use this effective Altergeist Prim Banshee once per turn. You can see this card has a lot of setup. It's a Link 3 that takes 2+ Altergeist monsters. So you already have to have had 3 monsters on the board for you to even special summon this, so the likelihood of you controlling an additional Altergeist monster is pretty low, so I don't really think this card is the best. I do think you would rather just summon a HEXSTIA, because that card is your negator. It takes 2 Altergeist monsters, it's a Link 2, its effect reads, gains attack equal to the original attack of all Altergeist monsters it points to. When a spell trap card is activated, quick effect, you contribute one Altergeist monster this card points to, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Altergeist card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effective Altergeist HEXSTIA once per turn. So this card is the one you're really trying to summon pre-Flames of Destruction and post-Flames of Destruction, because it's your negation. If you can establish this, a monster below it, an additional Altergeist, or like a wastable Altergeist trap and Protocol, that is a pretty good board to have, because it allows you a lot of negation. But post Flames of Destruction is where the deck really gets nuts. We get a lot of different cards. Altergeist Pixiel, this card's not really as important. You distribute it, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and add one of those. Or add an excavated Altergeist card to your hand, and then send the remaining cards to the grave. This card isn't as important, because unless you're trying to play some version of Altergeist where they play a lot of live grave cards, then this card just isn't as good, because the only card that you're trying to get to the grave that's an Altergeist card is Camouflage, and outside of that you can just search everything else with Marionette, so why play this card? Then there's Kidolgo, which is the new Link monster. This one is meh. it's just not as good. And it's another Link 2 monster that takes 2 Altergeists and it has 1000 attack. But when your other Altergeist monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to the zone. This card points to, but it cannot attack except the turn this card declared an attack. If this card is destroyed by battle, you can target one Altergeist card in your grave, add it to your hand, so it has some cool synergy with the grave, but it has to be destroyed by battle. I just don't think you should play any of it. Similar to Elf, it doesn't have a lot of synergy, but when we do get it, it's kind of neat. I guess you could play one, but I don't think you should play any. It's not the best. I've been trying it out, and it allows you to have another monster under HEXSTIA if you didn't already. Because it's a trap monster, you can special summon this card as an effect monster, spellcaster, light level 4, attack 1400, defense 1800. It's also a trap, and then summon this way, other Altergeist traps you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, neither player can target them with card effects. So it allows you to keep your Altergeist traps, which is relevant, but it's just, I don't know, I just don't think it's as good. Especially not as good as the next card, Altergeist Multi-Faker. Its attack is 1200, defense is 800, but that's less relevant because its effect is bonkers. If you activate a trap card, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summon, you can special summon one Altergeist monster from your deck in defense except Multi-Faker. So you are able to turbo out any of your Altergeists, usually Meluseek or Silkwidus, because Silkwidus is your Kieran of the deck, and you can just put Multi-Faker back in your hand to Kieran something away, which is nuts. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect, though, except Altergeist monsters. And you can only use each effect of Altergeist Multi-Faker once per turn, which is understandable because that would make this deck absolutely insane. So those are the new cards that we're getting. As of now, the deck is able to utilize Scapegoat pretty well in order to crank out big link monsters like SARYUJA, and SARYUJA lets you plus with this effect and unbreak your hand while keeping the traps or the hand traps and then allowing you to further stun your opponent and lower their ceiling to where they can't do much, which is pretty much just the purpose of stun decks anyway. Like I said, the deck does function as a stun deck that utilizes trap cards really well to interrupt your opponent while enabling you to really abuse Altergeist Multi-Faker from your hand upon resolution of those traps. I think that's something to take into consideration when building this deck, is that you are really trying to utilize Altergeist Multi-Faker so that you can prevent your opponent from playing the game, really, because this deck has a lot of negates. It has a negate in the form of HEXSTIA, in the form of Protocol, because Protocol is your monster negator. Camouflage prevents or negates targeting, and then your Silkwidus is just your Kieran, which allows you to bounce anything during either player's turn. So there's a lot of negation to take into consideration when playing this deck, and it's going to be a cool deck to see in action in the meta once we get Flames of Destruction, because this deck will likely be meta because of what it can do with very little cards. So with all this into consideration, let me know if I missed out on anything. I feel like this is a decent intro into Altergeist because I'm just letting you know what the cards are, letting you know some of the interactions that they will have, and then you can kind of just take it from there. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below, y'all. And this is Alex from +3TCG, signing out.